The doorbell rang at 3:47 p.m. on a Tuesday. I remember the exact time because I'd been staring at the clock, waiting for my favorite cooking show to start. When I opened the door, there stood my daughter, Emily, her husband Derek beside her, both wearing smiles that didn't quite reach their eyes. "Mom!" Emily rushed forward, wrapping me in a hug that felt rehearsed. "Surprise!" It had been 22 months. 22 months since she'd stormed out after I told her I couldn't help with their down payment. 22 months of silence, broken only by a brief text on my birthday. "Emily." I stepped back, studying her face. She'd cut her hair shorter. Derek had grown a beard. They looked older, harder somehow. "This is unexpected." "We were in the area," Derek said, though we both knew that was a lie. I lived in a quiet suburb of Columbus, Ohio, nowhere near their place in Cincinnati. Thought we'd drop by. I let them in, because what else could I do? They were my daughter and son-in-law. The apartment felt smaller with them in it, their eyes scanning the modest living room, the second-hand furniture, the absence of anything that spoke of wealth. 3 months ago, I'd won $4.2 million in the Powerball. 3 months ago, I'd driven to the lottery office in downtown Columbus, hands shaking as I handed over the ticket. 3 months ago, I'd made a decision that would change everything. I told no one. Not Emily. Not my sister Janet. Not my book club friends. No one. After my husband Paul died 4 years ago, I'd sold our house in the suburbs. Too many memories, too many rooms for one person. I'd downsized to this 2-bedroom apartment in a retirement community. It was enough. It was peaceful. The lottery ticket had been a whim. I'd stopped at the gas station on my way home from my volunteer shift at the library. $5. That's all it cost to change my life. But I'd worked as a social worker for 37 years. I'd seen what money did to families. I'd watched inheritance tear siblings apart, watched adult children circle aging parents like vultures. I knew better, so I kept my secret. I took the lump sum, paid the taxes, invested wisely with a financial advisor in Cleveland who didn't know me from anyone. I kept living in my apartment, kept driving my 2015 Honda, kept my routine exactly the same. "You've redecorated," Emily said, though I hadn't changed a thing in 2 years. "Just move some things around," I lied, matching her energy. Derek settled onto my couch like he owned it. "How've you been, Margaret? You look good." "I'm well. Keeping busy with my book club and volunteering." I moved toward the kitchen. "Can I get you both some tea?" "That would be lovely," Emily said, following me. "Mom, I want to apologize for how I acted, for the things I said." I filled the kettle, buying time. She'd called me selfish, said I was sitting on Paul's life insurance money while she and Derek struggled, said I didn't care about her future. None of it was true. The life insurance had barely covered Paul's medical bills and funeral. I'd been living on my pension and Social Security. Modest, but sufficient. "It's in the past," I said, though we both knew it wasn't. While the water boiled, I excused myself to the bathroom. I needed a moment to think, to process their sudden appearance. As I washed my hands, I heard their voices drift down the hallway. They weren't being quiet. "How much longer do we have to keep this up?" Derek's voice, sharp with irritation. "Shh! She'll hear you." "Emily, urgent. She's in the bathroom. Look at this place. She's clearly not doing well financially." My hand froze on the towel. "The Johnsons said she's been taking the bus everywhere. Her car's probably dying." Mrs. Johnson was my neighbor, a sweet woman who couldn't keep a secret to save her life. I'd been taking the bus to the library because parking downtown was impossible, not because my car was failing. "Derek, please. We need to be patient." "Patient? We've been patient for almost 2 years. We need that money for the house in Mason. The sellers won't wait forever." My heart started pounding. I eased the bathroom door open just a crack. "I know, but we can't just ask her outright again. She'll say no like last time." "Then we don't ask." Derek's voice turned cold. "We convince her she needs our help, that she can't manage on her own anymore." "What do you mean?" "Think about it. She's 64, living alone, clearly struggling. We start planting seeds, mention how hard it must be, offer to help with her finances. Once we have access to her accounts, we can see what's really there. If there's anything left from your dad's insurance, we take it. Tell her it's for her own good, that we're protecting her. Silence. Then, Emily's voice, quieter. That feels wrong. What feels wrong is us throwing away money on rent every month while your mother sits on who knows what. She's old, Em. She doesn't need much. We're young. We have our whole lives ahead of us. She's 64, not 90. Same difference. Look, we do this right, and in 6 months, we're in that house. You can have your dream kitchen. I can have my home office. We'll visit her once a month, make sure she's okay. It's not like we're abandoning her. The kettle began to whistle. I flushed the toilet, ran the water loudly, and walked back to the kitchen on shaking legs. They were sitting at my small dining table when I returned, faces bright and innocent. Here we are, I said, pouring tea with steady hands despite the earthquake happening inside my chest. We made small talk. Emily told me about her job at the marketing firm. Derek complained about his commute. I nodded in all the right places, smiled when expected, while my mind raced. This was my daughter. The girl I'd raised, whose scraped knees I'd bandaged, whose bad dreams I'd chased away. The young woman I'd sent to college, watched marry, believed would always be on my side. Mom, we've been thinking, Emily said, stirring sugar into her tea. You shouldn't be alone like this. I'm not alone. I have friends, my book club, volunteering, but no family nearby, Derek interjected. What if something happened? What if you fell? I have a medical alert system. I didn't, but they didn't need to know that. Still, Emily reached across the table, covering my hand with hers. We worry about you. We were thinking maybe we could help you with things. Bills, finances. It must be overwhelming, managing everything by yourself. There it was, the first seed. I manage fine, I said gently. I'm not incompetent. Of course not. Emily's laugh was too bright. We just thought, it might be nice to have help. Take some burden off your shoulders. What burden? I pulled my hand back, stood to get more hot water. I pay my bills on time, balance my checkbook every month. I'm perfectly capable. I saw them exchange a glance. Derek's jaw tightened. We're just trying to help, he said. I appreciate that, but I don't need help. They stayed for another hour. Emily showed me pictures of their apartment on her phone. Derek mentioned the house they were looking at in Mason. 3 bedrooms, big yard, perfect for when they started a family. It sounds lovely, I said, and meant it. I hope it works out. It will, Derek said, an edge to his voice. One way or another. When they finally left, Emily hugged me at the door. We'll visit more often now, Mom. I promise. I watched them drive away in their Audi, a car that cost more than I'd spent on furniture in 5 years, and I felt something inside me crack. That night, I couldn't sleep. I lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, replaying their conversation over and over. My daughter, my Emily, was planning to manipulate me, to take what little she thought I had. The money sat in investment accounts, growing quietly. I'd planned to leave it all to Emily eventually, maybe help with grandchildren's college funds someday. I'd imagined surprising her when she really needed it, being the mother who came through. But that fantasy died in my bathroom hallway. Over the next weeks, Emily called regularly. Every conversation circled back to my finances, my capability, my need for help. Mom, did you remember to pay your electric bill? Yes, Emily. And you're eating okay? Groceries are so expensive now. I eat fine. Maybe we should set up automatic payments for you, just to make sure nothing gets missed. Nothing gets missed. Derek sent me articles about elder care, about the importance of financial planning, about scams targeting seniors. The irony wasn't lost on me. They visited twice more. Each time, Derek's eyes wandered to my mail on the counter, my purse on the table. Emily asked questions about my bank, my accounts, whether I had a will. Just want to make sure you're protected, Mom. Protected from what? From them? 6 weeks after their first visit, Emily called with a new strategy. Mom, Derek and I have been thinking, what if you moved in with us? We're looking at a bigger place, and we could have a whole suite for you. You wouldn't have to worry about rent or bills anymore. I like my apartment, but it must be lonely and expensive. Think of all the money you'd save. Money I didn't need to save. Money I had more of than they could imagine. I'm happy where I am, sweetheart. Are you, though? Her voice cracked, and for a moment, I heard my little girl. Are you really happy, Mom? Living alone, struggling to make ends meet, too proud to ask for help? I almost told her then. Almost said the words that would change everything. I won the lottery. I'm fine, more than fine. But I didn't. Because if I told her, everything would change. She'd know I'd heard them that day. She'd know I'd been testing her all these weeks. The relationship we had left, fragile as it was, would shatter completely. Or worse, she'd be kind to me only because of the money. I'd never know if her love was real or purchased. I'm genuinely happy, I said instead. Please don't worry about me. After I hung up, I sat in my quiet apartment and made a decision. I called my attorney the next morning. James Morrison had handled Paul's estate and knew me well. Margaret, good to hear from you. What can I do for you? I need to update my will. We met at his office in downtown Columbus. I explained everything. The lottery win, Emily's visits, what I'd overheard. James listened without judgment, taking notes. You're certain about this? Completely. He drafted the documents. The bulk of my estate would go to 3 charities: the Columbus Literacy Council, where I volunteered, a hospice organization that had cared for Paul, and a scholarship fund for social work students at Ohio State. Emily would receive $50,000, enough to help with a down payment if she needed it, not enough to change her life dramatically, and a letter, to be opened after my death, explaining why. I hope she never needs to read this, James said as I signed. So do I. But I knew better. I'd spent my career reading people, understanding motivations. Emily and Derek had shown me who they were. I chose to believe them. Life continued. Emily's calls became less frequent when she realized I wouldn't budge. Derek stopped sending articles. They visited once more, a perfunctory Sunday afternoon, before the visits stopped altogether. I didn't chase them. I didn't beg for their attention. I simply lived my life. I took a trip to Scotland, something Paul and I had always planned but never managed. I stayed in a castle, drank whiskey, walked the Highlands. I came home with 1,000 photographs and a lightness I hadn't felt in years. I donated anonymously to my retirement community's activities fund. Suddenly there were better crafts classes, more day trips, improved exercise equipment. No one knew it was me. That was the point. I helped my neighbor Mr. Chen when his daughter needed surgery. Slipped an envelope under his door with a note, from a friend who's been blessed and wants to share. I saw him cry when he opened it, saw the relief on his face. This was what wealth was for. Not hoarding, not controlling, not dangling it over the heads of people who should love you unconditionally. On what would have been Paul's 68th birthday, I visited his grave with flowers. I told him about Emily, about my choice, about the life I was building. I think you'd understand, I whispered. I think you'd tell me I did the right thing. The wind rustled through the trees, and I chose to believe it was his answer. 12 months after their first visit, Emily called. Her voice was different, excited. Mom, we got it! We got the house in Mason! Congratulations, sweetheart. I'm happy for you. We want you to come see it. Next Sunday? I agreed, because I was curious. One last test. The house was beautiful. 4 bedrooms, modern kitchen, hardwood floors throughout. They gave me a tour, Emily bubbling with enthusiasm. For a moment, she was my daughter again, unspoiled by greed. How did you manage it? I asked. The down payment? Emily and Derek exchanged a look. Derek got a promotion, Emily said quickly. Big raise. We'd been saving. Another lie. But I smiled and said, That's wonderful. I'm so proud of you both. In the would-be nursery, Emily showed me paint swatches. We're thinking soft yellow. Gender neutral. You're pregnant? Not yet. But soon, we hope. She looked at me, and I saw uncertainty in her eyes. Would you want to be involved? With the baby? And there it was. The question beneath the question. Would I provide free babysitting? Would I help financially? Would I be useful? Of course I'd want to be involved, I said, as much as you'd like me to be. We had coffee in their new kitchen. Derek asked casually, How are you doing, Margaret? Financially, I mean. Are you getting by okay? I'm fine, because if you ever need anything, you know you can ask us now. Now that we're settled, I almost laughed. They'd gotten their house somehow, probably taken on massive debt, and they were offering to help me. That's kind of you. But I'm perfectly comfortable. I left before dinner, claiming a headache. As I drove my reliable Honda back to my apartment, I felt free. I'd given Emily every chance to be genuine, to apologize sincerely, to want a relationship with me that wasn't based on what I could provide. She'd failed every test, but I'd passed my own. I'd chosen self-respect over desperation for her love. I'd chosen to use my blessing to help people who genuinely needed it, not people who felt entitled to it. 2 years after winning the lottery, I was sitting in my book club when Janet leaned over. "Margaret, you look different lately." "Happy. What's your secret?" I smiled, thinking of my investment accounts, my will, my trips, my anonymous donations, my quiet, dignified life. "No secret. I just finally figured out what really matters." And I had. Family wasn't always blood. Love wasn't supposed to come with price tags and manipulation. Wealth wasn't about having money. It was about having the freedom to choose who deserved your time, your energy, your heart. Emily calls occasionally now. Birthday, Christmas, Mother's Day. The conversations are pleasant and empty. She doesn't know about Scotland or Wales or the trip to New Zealand I'm planning. She doesn't know about the literacy students whose books I buy or the hospice families I help. She doesn't know me at all anymore, but I know her. And I know Derek. And I know that the $4.2 million sitting in my accounts will do far more good in the hands of strangers than it would ever do in theirs. Sometimes at night, I think about that day in the bathroom hallway, how my world tilted on its axis, how I could have walked out and confronted them, could have told them the truth and watched their faces change. I'm glad I didn't, because this way, I get to keep something they can never take from me. The knowledge that I chose wisely, that I protected myself, that I learned the hardest lesson a mother can learn. Sometimes the people who should love you most are the ones you need to love from the greatest distance. I sleep well now, better than I have in years. And when I write my weekly check to the Columbus Literacy Council, when I see the reading scores improve, when I watch struggling adults learn to read and open up worlds for themselves, I know exactly what I did with my $4.2 million. I bought my freedom. And you can't put a price on that.